And again, my name is Benji Cohn. Welcome to the 176th episode of the Minnesota Outdoor Skills and Stewardship Series. We're talking about a topic that is important to all of us that like to get out during the hunting season and just stay safe in the woods. So we're talking about tree stands today and a couple different methods, a couple different tree stand types we have. We got a blind here, a climber, and then a ladder stand. We're going to go over just some tips to be safe out there. And I'd like to welcome, everybody knows Kraig Kiger, our Northwoods guru up here in Grand Rapids. I'm actually live from Grand Rapids today because they have better trees than the central office, so we'll go with that. And Meadow Cofield is joining us too. You want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. My name's Meadow Kaufeld, and I'm a faculty here at Minnesota North College at Itasca in the Natural Resources program. Looking forward to teaching you guys a little bit about climbing stands today.
Hey, Meadow, you've been super involved in the R3 movement and stuff and getting more students out in the outdoors. I really appreciate your help with that. I think I was trying to remember where I actually met, and it was probably the R3 Council years ago when that started. So, all right, what do we need to do? I'm going to step behind the camera a little bit. I'm going to pass the mic off to you guys and just ask a couple of questions. First of all, trees, though, what are we looking for in trees?
Well, Kraig and I both probably have some things to teach you guys about trees, but depending on which style of stand you're going to be using, you're going to be looking for some different characteristics. But certainly we're looking for a tall, straight tree that does not show signs of decay or death. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, so you obviously want a tree that you're going to be able to get high enough off the ground. Typically it's straight, doesn't lean. You're not going to see signs of decay or death, right? I don't want a tree that's dying or sloughing sheets of bark. And then there's also species to take into consideration if you have a climbing stand. With a ladder stand, it's not as important, but certainly those characteristics are in common between the two styles of stands. Kraig, do you have anything you want to add?
So back when I took forestry school, we talked about corky bark, and corky bark always grabs a climber stand better than smooth bark.
I do like using balsams and aspen because I can bite into them with my climbing stand. So my climbing stand has teeth in it. And so corky bark is good, but it can be difficult to climb. So it's a matter of opinion maybe. But I certainly like to be able to use things like ash, which does have a very strong corky bark. We don't have things like shagbark hickory here in northern Minnesota, but that's a species you might want to avoid. And things like silver maple also have bark plaques that slough.
Okay, Benji. The diameter doesn't usually get big enough.
Our DBH of average ironwood up here is like that. Okay.
Where do we want to start?
Let's start with climber.
Start with the climber?
Yep. Benji's going to get the remote camera set up over there.
They do come in different sizes, and this one will adjust large enough that I can wear my full heavy winter garb underneath my harness, but also tighten it down to my summer or late summer, early fall season stuff. This one's got a tether off the back, most of them do, that have them built in, and then has a strap that goes through that tether that I will put around the tree. And with a climber, this is a little more complex or technical than, say, a ladder stand. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you get used to them, they're easy to use, they're fun, and I like the versatility of a climber stand because I end up hunting a lot of different trees or setups during the season. So I can go ahead and check out this stand. This is about one of the smaller ones that you can get. This is an older one. Again, another one that's about 13 years old. I've been hunting out of it for about that time. And this one's made by a company that now makes them so they're much quieter. This one's a louder tree stand, but this is pretty minimum. A lot of them have a bar that comes around that you can actually sit on and pull up. This one you have to lean into and pull your legs up. So it takes a little bit of physical strength to use this climbing stand, But I like it because it's small, it's light, it folds up into a backpack, and I can easily move from tree to tree or hike in distances if there's an area I want to try and hunt. So go ahead and come on in, Kraig. I'll show you some features of the stand. This right now we're on a bur oak tree. This bur oak has very hard bark, but it also allows for a bite. And so the way that these stands work is kind of like a lever or fulcrum. Oops. You can see the teeth here on the bottom. The bottom part of this stand also replicates that. And that's the part that you're going to bite into the stand. So you see it's loose, and then when you tip it and put pressure on the outside, it grabs or bites into that tree. You'll see, I'll move my feet to pull up on this stand. And of course, we got our straps down here for the backpack. And this here is pretty important. This is a line that is going to attach to your top to your bottom. Now, when I first got this, I did not know the importance of this line. And I was in Wisconsin. It was the first season I was hunting archery out there. And I got about 6 to 8 feet in the tree and the bottom dropped and it fell. Luckily, I was close enough to the ground where I could drop out of the tree without much damage to myself. And it was an embarrassing moment, but also fortunately a learning moment. And so from then on, I've kept this rope obviously attaching the two so that if the bottom does drop out, I can reach down with my legs and pull this bottom back out. If you don't have it attached and the tree is not tapered, meaning it doesn't narrow out and won't catch your stand as it falls, you may be stuck up here for a while. So keep that in mind. That's why that's here. We also have a strap up here to attach your seat once you get up to where you're going. That's also important because I've had it stand where this will catch my legs and drop the stand. I haven't fallen out of it or had a fall yet. Obviously, I wear a harness system, so I shouldn't fall out of it, but I've certainly come close to falling asleep and tipping out of them. So once again, things happen. You get tired, it's cold, you get lulled into sleep. Once again, you've got your harness in case that happens. So when I'm gonna pick a tree, I want to kind of look up the tree. We don't have much space here today to demonstrate this, but that's our limitations for technology. But with this tree has quite a taper. And when I start my stand, I want it to be kind of elevated because as I go up the tree is going to narrow and this stand platform is going to level out. Same with my seat. Now you want your seat and your platform relatively level to tipping towards the tree when you're at the spot that you're going, the elevation up the tree. One, it's uncomfortable to sit when you're sliding out away from the tree, and also unsafe. You can easily slip and fall, or some people get vertigo and become dizzy and may tip out easy too. You have a harness on, but you still don't want to fall out of the tree if you can help yourself, because it can be dangerous and it can be difficult. It's very physically demanding to use something like this. And it's also, especially when you're tired or you're cold, if you fall out, it's hard to get back in. It takes a lot of strength to try and get back into a tree stand when you're hanging there. So I'm standing here, I've got leverage on the edge here, leverage on the edge. This is biting into the trunk of the tree. I also have my tether, which normally I have in my pocket, but I'm going to go ahead and put that tether on this tree. And every time I go up, I'm going to have to adjust the strap, and it's going to have to climb with me. Because if it doesn't, if your strap's not attached to the tree, it really doesn't do you any good. So one other thing is, what happens if you forget your harness? I've done this. Well, I only go about 6 feet up in the air and use it as a chair, basically, an elevated chair. And that's not so much fun, but I've got a daughter, I've got friends, I got family, and for the love of myself, I'm going to stay low in that tree because I don't want to end up where I can't do the things I love the way that I love to do them from a preventable accident. So now I'm attached to the tree. You make sure it's nice and solid. Again, you practice this, it becomes automatic. We're only get about one extension up this tree because it's branches and it's short. But I'm going to go ahead and put pressure on the outside, lift, and it takes a little bit with these trees with bark like this. So I'm going to go ahead and put pressure on the edge. And that's the other thing, is it's a good idea to like prep your trees in advance. make sure that the stobs, any dead limbs, things along those lines, this just takes practice, a little bit of strength. And so I'm gonna move it up one more time, and I'll show you guys how I settle this sitting in. So you don't want your tether too high or too low, and I'll tell you why here in a bit. So put some pressure on there, feels good. Again, you practice this, it goes fast. I guess a little bit higher. All right, so this is about as high as I'm gonna be able to get. I'm gonna make sure my stand is nice and seated. Now I can take this seat down, bring it down just a little bit because I should get it nice and bit in. So now I'm at the level where when I sit, my feet can rest on my platform. And again, I've got my safety rope protecting my bottom part from the top part becoming separated. Little safety webbing here. Keep my seat in case it does fall. This is not a very good situation here. All right. So the height that you want, your tether attached, you want to be able to lean, but not that much. Go ahead and lift her one more. That's pretty good. And this isn't necessarily a tree I would use because it, again, broadens out up here so the taper's not holding. And then you would be able to pull up your haul line. Theoretically, you've attached your rifle or your bow and your bag. I usually have 2 haul lines. And then you bring your bag up. And this is where I would keep things like hooks that I can then install to hang my bag, my rifle, or my bow while I'm in the tree. So that's kind of the idea of it. And my thought process may not be the same as everybody, but the universal thing is that I have reasons to go home and reasons to take care of my health and longevity, and part of that is using a harness. You guys have any questions? I'll show you how I come down. Well, one is shock, right? So this one has folds sewn into it. So if I was to drop, I'm not a very heavy person, but if I was a heavier person, maybe it would rip. This will help absorb some of the shock from falling, that initial shock. The second part is that if you can't physically climb back in the tree, then your legs are dangling and you have circulation issues as this cuts into your groin area. And so that's where these come into place. I don't know if I answered the full question. And then obviously is getting back into your stand. If you drop your phone or something when that happens, a lot of times people are looking at their phones when that happens. And you have no way of calling someone, you're going to be hanging there for a while. And so it's a good idea to be able to either get back into your tree stand, which this will hold you here. I don't want to demonstrate here because we don't have the proper equipment here. But if this will put me right about here, head linked, I still probably won't be able to get back into the tree stand with all of my heavy winter clothing on. And I'm not, physically weak. I'm a pretty strong person,
Yeah.
and I don't feel comfortable with having too much of a drop. The only downfall is a lot of people don't feel like they can still shoot, but I've got plenty of room here. And I would probably put a little higher. I wouldn't. This tree here is keeping me from getting it tied up here.
So tree selection is pretty important.
Yep.
Also, and one of those, most harnesses now have, they call them leg safety straps.
Yep.
So you kind of demonstrated there, but if you pull those out, you can actually step into those to take that pressure off your femoral artery
Yep,
in
that's
your
what these
legs, so
are.
that you're not sitting there hanging for too long. So
They're like a stirrup. So you would be able to
yeah.
step into them and literally stand up like Benji's talking about, relieve that pressure on your artery.
So we had a little technical difficulties there. I'm going to grab the camera back from Kraig, and we're going to walk over to let's go to the blind, Kraig.
All right. Do you want me to turn this off?
You're going to hold on to that. I'll mute you. Do you want to grab that microphone from her? Just pass that down, Meadow. So those are climber stands, and you know, most of the injuries and stuff, a good portion of them that happen while we're out here hunting and doing stuff happen in tree stands. And Kraig, I don't know if you remember, was it 1972-ish, something like that, when they started implementing tree stand safety into firearm safety?
I'm not quite that old, Benji. But yeah, it became more and more prevalent because the stand height started out at 6 feet. And then it went to 9 feet, 12 feet. And now with the climbers, there's no limit. You can climb as high as willing to go. So if you're going to be hanging up in a tree like that, you're going to want to have good safety equipment. I've got the hunter safety system like Meadows. Mine's reversible from camo to blaze orange. And it fits well enough that I can wear my heavier gear over top of it and keep my tether out the collar of the jacket. So you can wear it all season. From archery, just turn it around, and when gun season comes out, you can put the blaze orange side on and hunt there. I mean, where we live and hunt up in northern Minnesota, it gets cold fairly early. So you're going to have the right gear to stay out there.
And it's, you know, if you buy a stand these days, they do come with a safety harness typically.
They do. They come with the strap system. So you got a strap over each shoulder, usually one around each leg, and then a belly strap. But they're difficult to untangle. They're cumbersome. But these vests give you the same support that those straps do, but it's all sewn into the vest. So it's easy to work with. Ground blind is we don't have to have a safety harness.
That's exactly where I was going to go with that. There's, you know, a safety harness, the kind you get with your tree stand isn't phenomenal. It'll save your life if you need it, so do wear it. If you want to be a little more comfortable and use a nicer stand, there's probably 100 different manufacturers out there that make firearm safety or safety vest and stuff. So you can buy them with, you know, pockets. You can buy real lightweight ones. You can buy heavier ones that have, you know, carry your lunch and everything with it. So it's really up to you, but they all do cost money. And one of the ways, you know, our friend James used to say that there was a lot of deer taken in the state of Minnesota by people wearing blue jeans and flannel shirts back before Blaze Orange was even around, and they did it on the ground. And one of the fun ways to get out hunting, this is one of my favorite things to do with my daughter, because both of us can sit in this blind. But I'll let you talk a little bit about the blinds and some of the tools, the chair and the shooting sticks you have sitting there.
When you set up your blind, set it up with good visibility. If you're in real thick brush, it's probably not going to be as productive as if you get out on the edge or on a good trail system. These are blind chairs. You can use the folding camp chairs in there. I've got a big one with armrests that's pretty comfortable to set in. One of the other things I bring is a Mr. Heater buddy heater. And I get a lot of flack from some of the guys at camp, but you know what? I'm warm, I'm dry, I'm comfortable, and I can sit there longer having that with me. For new hunters, a shooting stick to rest your firearm or your crossbow in is going to stabilize you and let you make a better shot than if you're trying to freehand it and get all wobbly.
It does help cut down the movement also, I think, with shooting sticks.
Oh yeah. Yep. And this blind is pretty special. Maybe Benji will get a shot of it. It's called a 270 view, and you get 270 degrees of viewing from inside the blind because it's like a mesh screen, and you can see right through it, but the animals can't see in. So you can hide your hand movements or your body movements or grabbing your sandwich out of your backpack. So that's a really nice feature to have. Yeah, they cost a little bit of money, but when you get comfortable using one, it's well worth it. So that's a blind, and the plus is no harness. And if I fall asleep and fall out of the chair, I've got what, 18 inches to the ground, you know,
Which is a real reason you have your chair with your
with
armrest.
the
and
arms, so
everything.
I got something to hang on to when I fall asleep. But so that's just some of the things that, and if you notice the sides of the blind, we have a required 12 by 12 inch blaze orange patch on all four sides. You can also just do a blaze orange cap, but we just went with the patches, and that's going to allow other hunters to see where you're at out in the woods. So you got to have them on there now. That is a state law. Any questions coming on the blinds, Benji?
No, I haven't seen any.
Okay. Should we move on to the ladder?
Yeah, let's try that.
So this is a ladder stand. It's got a platform, it's got a ladder, and you usually get 3 sections of ladder with every stand. For today's demonstration, we only put 1 section on. I find that 2 gets me up plenty high. 3, you're in that nosebleed seat, and I don't care for that. This is a safety line that we attached. It goes from the bottom of the stand to the top of the tree, and we've got a haul line here that we can pull up our rifle into the stand. So we found a good straight tree, got the stand put up there. There's little biting teeth, kind of like Meadow had on hers, on the top and bottom. There is a ratchet strap holding this tight to the tree. There's a ratchet strap on the bottom of the stand, and there's a ratchet strap on the top of the stand. So that's going to make it good and secure. I'm going to take my carabiner here and clip it into my climbing rope. The idea behind this is I'm tethered now from the ground to the stand, and I can just slide this knot every time I take a step up the ladder. So this is a 2-person stand. It's got lots of room in it. Husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, father and child, mother and child can come out and spend time in the stand. We told you we'd put our haul line on. So the rifle we chose for today's demonstration is called a dummy firearm. It will not fire. And it's got the blaze orange. I can put my case back down to the edge. I can load up once I'm in the stand, and I can be deer hunting just that quick. But you never want to climb with a loose firearm. You know, if you paid attention while I was climbing, I tried to maintain 3 points of contact the whole way up, so that, you know, just like regular ladder safety. This is a fairly short firearm, so you'd probably want to hold on to it all the time, because if it slipped one way or the other, it could fall. But you know, that's a pretty typical style rifle that you would use deer hunting in northern Minnesota. When the day is
I
done,
really like the fact that you bring, like, I've always brought my case out to the stand because inevitably when I try to tie my shotgun up to the haul line,
Yep.
the barrel goes straight down into the ground,
Yep.
like every time. So I like just bringing the case out. I don't have to worry about it that way. For raising and lowering, it's pretty handy.
So we unloaded the firearm. We're going to zip it back up. And I set the rope height so that it wouldn't come in contact with the ground. Boy, I don't know. Firearms are really expensive today. and I don't want to get mud and gunk or damage my barrel in some way by letting it go all the way to the ground. So getting down, you're just going to reverse the process. I got my safety strap still on. I've never left it. You want to have that knot just a little bit lower, so that if I did fall out of the stand, I'm going to be higher than the foot level, and then I can pull myself back up to the ladder and get back in. And I've hunted out of ladder stands and clamp-on stands, and we've got a couple of other ones over there we can show you. But this is by far the one that makes me feel the safest. I'll be 60 years old in a few days here, and I don't need to fall at this point in my life.
You notice I uses 2 hands or 2 feet all at the same time, so 3 points of contact the whole time. And we debated this morning about setting this up. You know, this is loaded ground, so it's pretty easy to set up. But when it's 20 feet in the air, how do we set that up very well?
Lose Mike again.
Well, I'm just muted myself because I'm getting feedback from yours.
Oh.
But you know, how do we set that thing up? And one of the things we can do to make this a little bit easier is use climbing sticks. So we can put those on the tree and actually climb up the backside of the tree so that we can strap that stand in. Imagine if that's 20 feet in the air, you can get up there and strap that in before you ever have to climb up there. So
I've also brought a step ladder with me when we're doing stand setup. So I've got some other way to get up there and put those straps around so you're not putting yourself at risk to get it locked down to the tree. Have you ever used the climbing sticks, Meadow? And it's just another feature. Now, if you were going to hunt from a platform stand, can we walk over that way, Benji?
you grab your lineman's
Yep.
line too. You can see Meadows stand there. One thing that's really nice about that model of climber stand is it kind of folds up into a backpack, so it's easy to transport that way. But Kraig has his lineman's rope there, so you can kind of show a little bit how that works.
So there's loops on the vest here that I can snap in the carabiner. I can go around the tree and snap it on the other side. I can shorten the same knot that I had on my climbing rope as I go up the tree. And if I lose my balance on one of the climbing sticks, I've still got a point of contact on that tree. And it's a handy thing to have. Of course, it's another expense, but what's your life worth, right, Menno?
Yeah, they're very handy for putting climbing sticks up to just have that one attachment to the tree. I know some of the stuff I've done, I have a climbing background, so I've thrown ropes up over branches and then use that as a safety line. Meadow made a really good point. I've never hunted out of a large yellow or red pine or white pine or something up in northern Minnesota, so I don't have that experience. But she pointed out that it'd be really hard to get a rope way up there in that tree.
So this is a hang-on stand. Basically, you're going to take this strap and go around the tree and shorten up the tether, and that'll lock it onto the tree. It's got a ratchet strap for a second point of contact around the tree. I've never felt greatly secured in this, and I would definitely have the strap that Meadow had that went around the top of the tree, and probably use maybe my short tether from me to the strap on that. And where's your little belt at, Meadow? Did you put it away already? Yep, there it is. So I've put some of these around trees and then put a carabiner here, so then I can just snap into the carabiner on the top. But I bow hunted out of one time, and that was enough excitement. But
They're hard to get in and out of.
Yep.
Those are.
you want to run your climbing sticks past the stand so that you climb up the rope or the ladder and then step down into your stand on that.
Yeah, that's a very important part to have that. I remember when I was younger and started using platform stands, not having the ladder up high enough because I wanted that extra 2 feet or something. Then you're crawling up into it. Not a good idea.
Yeah. So those are the ones we brought. That's another climber stand over there. It's an older style, pretty heavy. It's got a backpack. When I was in my late 20s, it wasn't so bad, but now it's something I want to haul in the 4-wheeler out to put it up on the tree. But I guess we're open to questions, Benji, if you got some.
And I think the one point that both Meadow and Kraig talked about that is super important is just the getting out there and doing your research beforehand. Don't expect to come opening morning and get out there and set that stand up at 4 a.m. and it just doesn't work. So if you're a last minute person, or if you're driving a long ways to get to a stand or get to a spot, a blind is a much better option. So we hunt public land. I hunt with my daughter, and we're allowed to leave stands up there for a little bit, for as long as we're using them. They have to be occupied, I forget what the rule is now, every 48 hours or something. So, but we'll haul that out the night before, put it up. It's super helpful to have 2 people setting those stands up, and setting the ladder stands up, using your safety things. It's both good, helpful having 2 people there, and then also having somebody there if something does happen. You got somebody there to help you out. So, hold on, Kraig.
Is tell someone where you're going and what time you're going to be home. Because I've been on some search and rescue things, and we go based on what the hunter told the family, and if they're not there, did they leave us another note or direction of travel so that we can go and look in the next area. And my wife says I'm over protective, but I'll text her from the stand, say there's nothing here, I'm going over to the box blind, or I'm going over to whichever stand, and just so she knows where to start looking if I don't make it home.
Still stand for that camera.
We don't have any side screen yet.
I think the audio, I don't know if I'll pick up on Kraig.
Cool.
Yeah, you guys sound good.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. I can hear myself from here too.
Nice.
Good. Turn that out a little. So.
As far as letting people know, I do the same. I usually have a person that I check in and out with when I go out, and then come back in. And kind of one of those deals that if they don't hear back from me within an hour of sunset, then there's something to be concerned about. A lot of times we end up hunting in areas without reception or poor reception, so it's really important to have a plan and hunt the plan when you don't have reception or no way of communicating with somebody. Like Kraig said, leave a note at your truck if you do plan to hunt, say, a different stand or a draw or something along those lines, just so somebody knows. And even with the climber, this day and age, when we have our cell phones and a lot of apps like OnX, we can share pins. That's what I typically do when I decide finally where I'm going to go. A lot of times when I'm a climber, I will be walking in and something has changed that I like, and I'll pick a tree there instead of where I was originally headed. Just send the pin to that person and they're able to look at it. Usually UTMs or some sort of, locational information.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions in the Q&A? Please enter them in there. One of my thoughts, like getting all this stuff into the woods where you want to hunt. Any tips on that? Sleds, wagons?
you know, a sled or a garden wagon would work pretty good on uneven territory, but I've got a side by side with a 4-foot box in it, and I can put all my gear in there and stop many different places and hang stands, you know. So
I've always carried them in piece by piece because I
really,
don't use not nearly near a trail. Usually, I usually hunt public land, and I'm going in a ways to get away from the road. And
yep,
but you just have to take your time, like anything, take your time. And the big thing is, I think people, like you say, they get rushed or they're last minute, and that's when accidents happen. Is when you haven't planned or you're rushing yourself, and you just got to take your time and be smart about it and be slow. You don't have to be the first person to have their stand up
yep,
necessarily, piece by piece.
There's a lot of people that insist on being out there and ready to go a half hour before sunset. That's my preference. If I have a stand up, that's what I like to do. But if you don't have a stand up, there's plenty of times I've gone out right at sunrise just to set it up and sit there for the afternoon.
hmm
It's completely fine too. I'd rather do it in the light when it's safe than
right.
in the dark when it's cold and do something.
Did I put a pin in each of the ladder sections to hold the ladder from coming apart? You know,
Yeah.
If you got daylight, you can see that real well. I'll wear a headlamp in the mornings when I'm going into the stand. So once I get to the stand, I can look up and see if anything's changed. Did the tree break off part way up? Did a branch come down that is laying across the stand? I got to move it. Stuff like that.
That brings up another point, wind. You know, I work with trees a lot, and they have hidden issues sometimes, like heart rot. They aren't necessarily easy to see from the outside. If it's really windy, a lot of times I recommend going lower in the tree with a climber.
Yep.
In particular, like I said, if I forget my harness, or if it's really windy, I may decide to hunt lower from the ground, just because that's a risk that I'm not necessarily willing to take. And also immediate trees, the surrounding trees, they call the widow makers. There may be a dead or sick tree that's nearby that can still take you out.
Yep.
Yeah, so again, the site selection is important. So
Very
being
much.
out there scouting. This is a great time of year. Do you guys have any tips on getting out there? It's fall time. It's getting to be fall turkey.
Grouse.
Also going to be starting up soon.
Yeah, grouse season. I'm a big grouse hunter, and it's most years I hunt a place I've never hunted before because it's a new spot I found while grouse hunting. I tend to hunt different covers. Maybe I'll go to one once a year. Rarely do I go to one more than twice. So I'm covering a lot of ground as a grouse hunter, and that's where I start to make a catalog of the potential stands that I'll use that year. And that for me with the climber, I'm picking out the right tree near an area where I can get a shot at a deer. And so again, that's where those hunting apps can help too, is you can drop pins and remind yourself. Even on Google Maps, you can drop a pin and come back to it. You don't have to have a subscription to a map app. But that's my kind of recommendation, is might as well get out and enjoy grouse season, especially when the leaves start to drop and the deer sign starts to really show up. You can prioritize your stand sites and get really familiar with the area, how you access it, where the tree is. And even for me, removing brush around the base of the tree so I can actually get the climber on the tree initially. So things like having hand shears or a small saw in your field vest if you're a grouse hunter will help you set up a stand in advance.
Yep.
That's good. We should also, maybe Cassie can put a link into the Rec Compass. It has a lot of public land access in it, all the walking trails, all that stuff through the DNR website. It's a great site to reference and find places to go. And if there's new hunters, I know Kraig and I are doing the Learn to Hunt program this year, and we got 35 new hunters that can be out. I got asked, we had the first class Monday, I got asked already about, do we want to do this? I kind of want to bird hunt. I want to hear what gun should I buy? And then there's go right into what do I need after the Learn to Hunt program to get out. You don't really need anything. You need blazed orange, you need a license, you need a firearm. There's options like the blind that we showed. But if you're going out and buying a stand or a climber or something, if that's something that interests you, make sure you follow all the directions, read the safety directions, and hopefully some of these tips that
buy it early in the year so you can practice using it a couple times before you actually take it out.
And try shooting from it too. I think that a lot of people think they're just going to get up there. And if you're an archer, you know, angles and all that stuff changes when you're up in a tree, but also just what you can get away with. I shoot a 300 WSM, and it has a fair amount of recoil. And so it does want to push you out of the stand if you don't have your angles right.
Yeah.
And with a larger caliber rifle, you can't really twist around like you could say with a smaller caliber rifle with lower recoil, because it will try and push you out of the stand. So those are the things that you want to not be too surprised by in practice if you can.
That's the best description I've ever heard for the reason to buy more than one gun.
Yes. Well,
Greg, you're always looking for a reason.
Yep,
Buy one more.
yep. Just one more.
Yeah, I think it's a great point about shooting. I know one of the archery ranges I take my daughters to, they have elevated stands to get used to that. It's a great point to get some place that you can get out and practice that shot and how it's going to move. Because every time I've set up a couple stands and I've gone there and then I got a bow or I got a gun and I'm like hitting a branch or something I
Yep.
didn't anticipate. So
Mm-hmm.
get up there and make sure your shooting lanes are good, make sure everything's clear.
and make sure you're like, for me, I'm a left-handed shooter. So there's a side that I want my rifle on. There's a side I want my pack on, and if you're using somebody else's stand, it's a good idea to know that it's set up right. And so, well, if you just go up this trail, you want to see it in the daylight and get up there, make sure that, especially when you're using other people's equipment, other people's stands, make sure it's safe before you go up there, because I've had that with firearms and stands. They send out somebody or given the firearm, say you're out of state or whatever, and it's not necessarily safe, especially tree stands, because there's a wide range and acceptability of tree stands. When you walk around
Yes.
the woods, you'll see a
Yeah.
wide range.
If you're hunting private land and somebody's built a wooden stand on a tree, make sure you get out there plenty early and check out those connections. Did a screw loosen up? Did a screw break? Did the nails come pounding out? Decay is another good one. But we always go out during grouse season and check our stands, make sure that they haven't become weak over time.
I always give it a good stomp.
Yeah, yeah.
Every step, it's a shake and a stomp. Make sure that it's not going to collapse under you when you put all your weight on it, especially when you're trying to climb something new.
And I don't have land that I leave a stand out on, but one of the areas we hunt, there's a guy that leaves a stand out there all season. And one thing I'm always afraid of is squirrels coming up and chewing that little nylon strap that holds your stand on there. So give it a good visual look around the tree before you
Yep.
make sure everything's still attached so it's supposed to be. Nylon doesn't last forever. That stuff.
Well, sun rot too.
Yeah.
Sun rot, and then like Kraig mentioned earlier, it's just the wind and the working of the trees. Your straps will come loose, because the trees are moving. They're in the wind, they're moving, and that friction back and forth will loosen up your straps. And if you leave them out over the year, rust, things like that also happen, and you just definitely need to see it in the daylight.
Your portable stands are designed to be portable. So after deer season's done, take it down, take it back to the house, check everything out, and make it ready for the next year. Don't just assume that, hey, it was great when I sat in this year, it's going to be fine next year. You ever seen where the nylon straps grown into the tree because they left the stand out there so long?
Not good for anybody.
The tree is adding to its diameter every year. And so as it does that, obviously it's making things tighter and tighter and may cut in and actually even also work that nylon apart.
Yep.
I don't see any other questions coming in today. So thank you everybody for joining us. Cassie, trying to remember what next week's program is. I'll put that in the chat for me, Cassie. Yeah, thanks, Sir Kraig, for inviting me up here and having me fill in for this. It's kind of fun to make the trip to Grand Rapids and Meadow. Thank you so much for joining us and showing the climber. It's one of the stands that I don't personally use, so it's really hard to talk to people about that too much. I've heard stories about people having the bottom fall out because they have their safety straps. So it was great to be able to see that and demonstrate that.
Yep.
Sure. I mean, they can be intimidating at first, but I find them very liberating and they're a lot of fun. So it's definitely a skill worth building.
Yeah.
Probably getting a lot more areas than that.
Yes. Well, we didn't demonstrate it, but if you can actually, even once you get up top, you can turn. So you can climb one side of the tree, and if it's a smooth side on the other, you can actually turn to face the opposite direction or any direction in the tree and change the aspect that you're actually looking at from up there. So just a lot of different options, a lot of flexibility. And like I said, when you set a stand like this up on sign and maybe a week later that sign is moved elsewhere, the handy part about a climber is I can just move over there,
right,
even between morning to evening without really much interference of what's going on around there.
We talked a little bit about leaving stands out, so make sure you check the rules and regulations if you're hunting on any public land. Get permission. If you're going on private land, say not only get permission to hunt, but get permission to leave your stand out there so that they know. Let them know when you're there. But yeah, check all the public lands and stuff. Some of them have different rules where you can and can't leave a stand.
Mhm.
State forest versus WMEs and whatnot. So check all your rules and regulations out. That's in regulations book, which just came out this last week.
Yep, I got some in my office. So. Yeah.
Happy National Left-Handers Day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Next week, you'll join us for introduction to North Shore fishing. We're going to talk about some fall fishing along the North Shore. Jason's going to join us.
Okay.
So appreciate everybody joining us. And unless you have any last comments, we can go back to the practice room, Cassie, and we'll everybody have a safe and fun week out there, and stay safe. Enjoy the great outdoors in Minnesota.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.